Our final speaker is Laura Atkinson from the Energy Saving Trust. Before Laura speaks, just to let you know, lunch is still here. As soon as Laura's finished, we're going to go and get some lunch. If you have questions for any of our speakers, let's do it over lunch. Laura.
Thank you very much for that. I'm very happy to be here. Also very aware that I'm now all that's standing between everyone and their lunch, so I will try to stick to the timing. Thank you very much. My name is Laura Atkinson. I'm a business development manager for Energy Saving Trust, and I'm here to talk today about fleet decarbonisation, and particularly how councils can show leadership amongst their residents by decarbonising their own vehicles sustainably. So firstly, I'll just talk very briefly about Energy Saving Trust. For those who don't know us, we are an independent profit-for-purpose organisation founded in 1992, and we are proud to be a respected and trusted voice on energy efficiency and clean energy solutions. Last year, our advice reached over 160,000 individuals. A big piece of this came from our flagship advice service, Home Energy Scotland, that delivered £4.7 million of lifetime savings to lower income and potentially fuel vulnerable individuals. Our vision is that everybody benefits from a net zero future, and a big part of our mission is accelerating the transition to zero emissions vehicles. And we have worked with over 140 local authorities and more than 40 NHS trusts to support their transition. So fleet decarbonisation, I would like to talk about fleet decarbonisation today and transport, although I think a lot has already been said about the unarguable urgency with which we need to decarbonise transport in this country and globally. I think the one little point that I will make is that within the context of local authorities is one refuse truck emits about 1 tonne of greenhouse gases every week. So I don't know exactly what the total number of such trucks in operation are in this country, but if we conservatively estimate that there might be about 20 per local authority, and I think that is conservative, we're talking about over 7,000 tonnes of greenhouse gases just from this one part of most local authority fleets. It's also really another reason why we might want to kind of look at decarbonising now is that we can. I think the technology clearly exists. I don't think I need to labour this point any further following Paul's presentation. I think that the only point I would make is that, and we've also heard a lot about the potential savings when we look at those long whole life costs of an electric vehicles. To make a strong business case for switching to electric vehicles, we're going to need to have a clear plan that goes far enough into the future so that we can demonstrate those carbon and financial savings. And that's why having a clear strategy for fleet decarbonisation is so important. And only with that strategy and with an assessment of where we are today so that we can clearly demonstrate the savings that we can make by transitioning our fleets, can we really seize and demonstrate those associated efficiency gains. And then I think the final point of why we need to act now is that if we don't act now, we may actually hurt our future environmental commitments. So if a local authority has a net zero target year of 2030, and we consider that vehicle retention is about 8 to 10 years, this means that any new vehicles that we are procuring today really do need to be aligned with our net zero targets. And so now I just want to take a brief look at a council that is taking such an approach and coincidentally making significant strides in decarbonising their fleet, as is the case of Wiltshire Council. We first began working with Wiltshire Council in 2020 when the council was faced with kind of an ageing fleet of 300 diesel vehicles, which, as you might imagine, was not really in line with their ambitious environmental targets. They also face the dual challenge that I think all businesses and all organisations and local authorities face of ensuring a reduction in those carbon emissions while at the same time delivering practical and affordable solutions for their services. So Wiltshire commissioned an independent review just to ensure that the decisions they were making were based on robust data with truly impartial guidance that they could trust. So with Energy Saving Trust, we have no commercial partnerships as part of any of our fleet decarbonisation services. And I think we've heard today about the vital importance of data for driving those informed decisions. This review helped them identify a phased and manageable approach, including at this time, because this was in 2020 when we began working with the council, the use of hybrids and short-term lease vehicles to bridge any gaps that might have existed in the technology. By adopting the recommendations of this review as their official strategy, the council next secured funding and began to transition their fleet. This meant introducing battery electric vehicles where possible, and by the end of 2023, they had 50 electric vehicles in their fleet. But as the council began to grow and work through their plan to meet their ambitious targets, there was a clear need to upgrade their infrastructure. And I think we've heard a lot today about the importance of infrastructure, and it's not just about the vehicles. In the case of Wiltshire Council, they had multiple grid connections of varying sizes and some with quite limited capacity. And in parallel, we saw by 2023 that the electric vehicle market had improved significantly, which certainly helped to accelerate progress, but also meant that that infrastructure needed to play catch-up with that progress. The council was also very ambitious in decarbonising their waste collections, which would require depot upgrades and actual relocation in some cases. So to support this, they carried out a refreshed fleet review, and this time taking into account detailed fleet data from telematics that were installed after the initial 2020 review. And this new fleet review brought together the complex geography of the council's fleet operations, as well as the grid power demands. And here at Energy Saving Trust, we analysed all aspects of the council's fleet and also quantified the energy requirements at council locations, alongside where vehicles need to be stationed. And the council then used this data to take the next step in upgrading its fleet to electric vehicles. And so here we are today, using half-hourly data analysis and vehicle telematics. The council now have a strategy and electrification plans that are effective, achievable and proportionate to its growth. And this will create significant savings for the council, which can be invested in decarbonising other areas of the fleet ahead of schedule. They now have over 100 electric vehicles in operation and have actually, as you can see in the photo, begun to decarbonise their waste collection vehicles. So, to kind of conclude our presentation today, I just want to present a few takeaways, both from this case study, but also from other work we have done with businesses and councils in supporting them to decarbonise their fleet. I think number one, we need to have a whole fleet assessment to build the case and plan for decarbonisations. It's really hard to know where we're getting to and how much we're going to achieve if we don't know where we're starting from. So we need to begin with a clear fleet assessment and then like a clear plan and strategy to move forward with. Use the data. So using your fleet's data, you can really optimise the fleet efficiency, which can help save costs at a time of investment in a new fleet. I think at this stage in my presentation, as an employee of Energy Saving Trust, I really must say that the cheapest and cleanest energy will always be that energy that you don't use. So we need to have we need to be really assessing whether we are using each vehicle within our fleet as efficiently as we can be. And this involves checking vehicle usage and obviously trying to reduce the size of our fleet, particularly where we have vehicles with very low mileage, where perhaps through those behavioural changes that have been mentioned before, we can actually do without. If we can be reducing the size of our fleet and benefiting from those carbon, but also those financial savings, that can really help us make a strong business case to overcome the higher switching costs of moving to electric vehicles. So it's certainly something to keep very much in mind. And then finally, I would say don't be afraid of your geography. We've worked with a range of different councils with different particular geographical characteristics. Some have been pretty rural. And while certain geographies can present challenges, we have found that they have not been insurmountable. By analysing geographical data, we can often identify prime locations for charging infrastructure and shared vehicle pools. It's also important to remember that vehicle technology and range are constantly improving. Again, I don't think I need to labour this point. So even if the right solution is not available yet, if you have a clear long-term plan, just as was the case with Wiltshire, you can identify short-term solutions to bridge the gap so you don't make a long-term commitment to something that's going to deviate and move you far away from your net zero targets and your environmental ambitions. And so, with that, I'd just like to thank everyone for their time and their patience so close to lunch. I will be here for the rest of the day, but I'm also sharing my email address here in case you have any questions. Thank you.
There we go, we're done. Okay, very late, I apologise, it's their fault. However, they have paid for lunch, so not a chance. Sorry, Lynn, it's not happening. However, the speakers are all going to be available afterwards. So I wonder if during lunch, if you have questions, if you'd like to pose them to the speakers. Thank you for being patient. Really appreciate it. We'll be back here at 2:30. This afternoon session will run fine. It'll be on time because I'm done with this. See you at 2:30.